Hi, Mrs. Hughes. In your specific circumstances, I have three options for your business structure, which are a partnership, company, or a sole trader. From the information you've given me, I do not recommend the partnership structure. For a partnership to operate, there must be two or more people involved. As you're concerned with your husband and the implications of your estate, it is not viable for you to use the partnership structure. Partnerships also have unlimited liability on the partners, which means you could potentially lose your assets if the business partnership is unable to meet its financial obligations. Partnership is not suitable if you want total control of the business, as partnerships have shared control and the profits are distributed between the partners according to the contracts of the partnership agreement. So the partners are also responsible for the decisions of the other partners, which can cause huge disputes and disagreements if you're not careful on who you go into partnership businesses with, because if there is a negligent act committed by another partner, you will still be responsible for that negligent act even though it wasn't you. It might be worth considering entering into a partnership possibly one day with your daughter if you trust her to do the right thing. Partnerships are easy to restructure than that of the company setup, and if you have a view of transferring the business to your daughter one day, it still might be worth having a little think about this structure. However, you would not have total control of the business. The risk of liability will also extend to your daughter, and you would also need to distribute the profits to your daughter as well as yourself, so all of the profits wouldn't go to you. And for a partnership to exist, the business must be carried out by the persons in common with a view to profit. So therefore, if your daughter doesn't meet this element and she's got her own life working in a different industry, that's not viable for you, as it wouldn't be viable for your husband because he's working full-time as an engineer. So a partnership isn't my preferred option for you, as you want total control of the business and all of the profit, but you still might like to consider it, although my view is that this is the highest risk structure because you've got to put a lot of faith into other people, and as you're concerned with liability, I do not think it's ideal for you. So I'll move on to sole traders, because they are also another high risk, cheap and nasty business structure where you have unlimited liability on you personally. Because this means essentially you're trading under your own name as an individual, even though you've got a business name. So therefore, if you're extremely concerned about liability, you definitely shouldn't adopt this structure. If you come under financial hardship, the creditors will take your assets and it will leave you exposed to all of the debts that could come out of your savings, and you may lose the investments that you have that aren't related to the business. For example, the house or personal car or the investment properties you've told me you've got. So you might need to be aware that you will even be liable for the debts incurred by your employee. And that's the same with partners to partnerships as well. Because you don't require finance though, and you've got savings, it might be worth considering this simple, cheap structure. You only have the one owner. You have sole responsibility in the decision making. You get all of the profits, and they're easy to terminate or restructure if you change your mind and do want to enter into the partnership or change it over to a company. I know that you said that your husband would be willing to financially support you if something went wrong with the business structure, but when prompted you seemed unsure. So I still don't like this business structure for you, and therefore I'm not going to recommend it. My recommendation is a company. Now, I will just let you know I've done a little bit of research on licenses for you. There is no florist license requirement or higher education. However, you might want to consider the alcohol license if you have the little gift baskets inclusive of alcohol with the flowers, but there is usually an exemption for that for a florist. So I am going to recommend the company structure. So if you use a proprietary limited company business structure, you can be the sole owner, director and shareholder. You're limited from liability because you're a company and have legal status to sue or be sued. So this means if the business goes broke or enters financial hardship, you'll be protected from all liability personally, and only company assets can be repossessed. Other investments will be protected, like your house, car, and the investment properties. It's not difficult to appoint new directors or transfer ownership, so when you're ready to transfer this to your daughter, it'll be relatively simple, even if you've died. You could also have your husband as the director because he doesn't need to be involved in the day-to-day running of the business. All profits of the company can go to you as the sole director. So my recommendation would be not to add any other directors of the company until you're ready, because you want total control of the business and the profits. You need to be aware that all property and insurances of the business must be in the company name, not your individual name. If it's a company asset, it's in the company name. Now, as there's a downside to all of these structures, there's also a downside to the business structure because they're quite complicated. They're very expensive to set up. I think they're about $1,200 according to my accountant, and there's a lot of paperwork, reporting, and they're heavily regulated by ASIC. So this is why it's hard to change the structure of a company back to a sole trader or a partnership, so be aware of that. You need to be very aware that even though there is that limited liability structure, suppliers and financial institutions are very likely to still ask you for a personal guarantee, putting liability back onto you individually, like that of a sole trader or a partnership. So there is this catch to the limited liability of that of a company. As you have your savings to finance your business, this shouldn't be too much of an issue for you, but be careful not to expose yourself by signing one of those personal guarantees as securities to finance whatever it is that you're doing or entering in a contract. Whatever it is you've decided to do, just be aware of that. And putting these downsides aside, the company structure would be best for you. Although it's complex, you're going to get exactly what you want. You'll get to manage the company yourself as the sole director. You'll get full control as well as profits distributed to you. You've got savings behind you, so the company structure will be affordable and it's not going to set you back. Therefore, I recommend starting a proprietary limited company as this structure suits your situation, and you're pretty much going to get what you're wanting to achieve in relation to all of your concerns.